Welcome to Complete Edition, the podcast between a PlayStation Trophy Hunter and an Xbox Achievement Hunter. This is episode 32. I'm your host, Compulsive Nerd, and I'm joined by AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing well. It's been really good these past few weeks. I've been playing tons of great games, especially a lot of indie games, and it's just been, I don't know, I'm sort of like, why don't I just always do this? Just play it's not normally this pristine, I suppose, in terms of the games that I play. They're normally quite scattershot. And I think that's because probably you tend to want to play games that are in different genres or stick to a theme with a few games. Like I remember at one stage I wanted to play a lot of Souls-like type games, so it meant I played some games that weren't that great, but just because I wanted to explore the genre more thoroughly. But right now I'm just sort of playing great game after great game that it's been too long, and it's been really fun. So yeah, I've had a good past 2 weeks. My a close friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time, seen since COVID, he came over on Saturday, so we watched Interstellar and played Outer Wilds. It wasn't planned to be a space themed day, but it was nice. It was really good. So yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
That's very cool, and I'm doing pretty good. It was I'm so glad that you messaged me this morning. It was one of those mornings, where you wake up, for the audience who doesn't know, AJ and I are very far apart, different countries, and it was 9:30 a.m. here, and it was one of those days where I was on my phone, and I was like, I'm gonna mute this alarm, I'm going back to sleep, I am done. And then you sent me a message, and you're like, are we recording? And I'm like, yes! A reason to get out of bed, because I was about to go right back to sleep. But yeah, man, I've been gaming a whole lot, and it's really interesting, what you were talking about. You got to get into those PowerWash simulators, you know what I'm saying? But no, I've been looking through my library of games, and sometimes, and maybe you relate to this too, you buy games and they sit there and they never get touched, and then they get added to your backlog, and it's like, yeah, I bought that game, never touched it, bought it though. It's because I was interested in it. And so I've kind of been looking through some of the games that I own, and even some of the games that I'm game sharing with someone, and I get to look through their games. And this goes for a lot of people who have Game Pass too. You can just kind of go through the library and pick out some of the games on your backlog and rearrange your backlog. And I kind of started to do that. And because I'm playing games that were always on my backlog and games that I was interested in, I'm also in this really good flow of games that I enjoy and that I want to play. And it just has been continuing to stack and stack and stack. And I'll talk about it later, but man, I cannot believe it. I am one trophy away in Rogue Legacy. It's just how did that happen?
Wow.
How did that happen, dude?
I assume it's the one to beat the whole game in a low amount of deaths that you have left?
Yes, that's exactly the one. I'm at 10 deaths, okay? And I have the final boss left. That's it. Nice. That's it. And I'm
that's great, because I remember you were talking about your struggles with it, both on the show and in Discord, and there were stages where I feel like you were saying, I'm not sure I can do this, I'm not sure I'm going to get it, but now you're almost there. You're right about to get it.
Yeah, and the game broke me. I mean, I really felt like I had, luckily we have Sean, who's such a supportive, great dude. And he's just put the game down, take a break. And I was just that's what I did. I went and did other stuff, and then I came back and I ended up beating a boss later on. And it was just so frustrating for me because I just felt like I didn't have the skill cap to do it, which is a first time in my life kind of situation. I've always been pretty good at video games, but this one just was slapping the shit out of me. There was a remix boss. I don't know if you've encountered it, but it's the flame one. There's this flame that goes around. It leaves a trail of little flames, and then it takes a long time for those to go out, and you can't hit them. So you're running all around the map trying to dodge these flames while the big flame boss is trying to get you. And it was getting on my nerves because I played it for 2 hours. And I could not get the boss's health down past half, at ever. And so it didn't feel like I was making progress. It didn't feel like I was close. It was oh man, that one time that I was really close, and I just got to keep trying to get this. It just felt like I was on I hit a brick wall, and I just could not get past that boss. And eventually what I did was, which is actually one of the reasons why I'm so close. I cross-saved. I took it off my Vita and I cross-saved it to my PS5, which is the PS4 version of the game. And I don't know if it's the controller, the bigger screen. I don't know what it was, but I got it past half health and I was like, "Oh, I might be able to do this." And then I eventually, conquered it, and it was really cool, and I'll talk about it later with our topic on the table, but like that game, dude, I cannot believe it's been making me, like, I was talking to my friend last night and I was like, it's really cool. I don't know if you know this, but PS5 has a screen-in-screen feature, or a picture-in-picture, my bad. And he can stream his screen while I'm playing my game, and I can watch him play games in the corner of my screen and continue to play my game. And so he was playing Zero Dawn, the first one, and he's going to go through it, and then he's thinking about doing the second one if he likes it. And I just wanted to watch it, in the corner while I'm like running around trying to like grind out, because I need, right now at the situation that I'm at with Rogue Legacy is like, I cannot beat the final boss. I need to overpower the final boss. So I just need to get as much money as I can, maybe die 2 or 3 more times where I have like 13 to 14 deaths, and then like just invest all of my points into health and strength so that I can take more damage and then do more damage. Because at this stage, dude, I cannot beat the final boss. I just can't. I've tried over and over different classes, and I'm save scumming. I do want to say that. Like, I'm save scumming hard because this game there's no way I could do this in 15 deaths. So when I have like a good run, I upload my save to the cloud, and then if I die, I just reload the save.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because like,
can you like quit like before you die, and will that help? Or
no, as soon as you die, it's saved.
no, like before you die, like if you think you're gonna die, can you
Oh,
quit,
yeah.
and will it reset like some of your health or something?
No, it will not reset your health. It saves your health as soon as you're hit. But so like, whatever time or whatever your stats are as your character, when you quit to the main menu, they stay that way. So when you come back in, you won't be in the boss room. Say like you went to a boss room or something like that, or you went to a room where you were in serious danger. If you quit to the main menu and you come back, you're at the very first gate where you like go through, and then there's the teleporter, and then there's like all those chairs and the stuff that you can destroy with the main boss room door. And then you can kind of journey out from there again and teleport around. And it's really easy to just like get to a place. Maybe like what I did was on the last boss, the slime boss, because I was really struggling with that one on this playthrough, the 15 deaths playthrough. I just kind of ran through as fast as I could through the bottom territory. I don't remember what it was called. I think it's called like the basement or something. I don't know. But it's dark down there. There's a lot of higher level enemies, and I kind of ran through as fast as I could. And if I found the boss room, then I would upload the save and be like, I can run around now. And like, maybe the way that I've been playing is I use a lot of vampirism stuff, which is not something you should do for the final boss. So I've been trying to save up the money to, switch out for like a damage sword or something like that, because when you're in the final boss, you don't get health back. So using something like a vampirism or vampireism gear doesn't matter. It just lowers your health, which isn't good. But it's really nice to have it, because say I got to the boss room, and then I would climb back up and I would kill all the lower level enemies with one hit, and that would give me health back. So I could like get as much health back as I could, and then I'd quit out, save, and then when I upload the save, it's like now I have 155 out of 200 health, and then I could try again to get it up to all the way max health, because I'm using like the vampirism stuff, and then that gives me the best opportunity to win. And actually, something really cool that happened was I got the Hyperion's ring, which is like there's these little shrine statues that you can find in the game, and they give you like a perk sometimes, or maybe an obol or something. And I found the Hyperion's ring, and that gives you an extra life, or a Death's Defy. And so I was like, holy shit, I literally have 2 chances now with one of these bosses, like 2 chances. And so I was like, I could do this. So I upload the save from that, and I was like, hell yeah. And so I got really, really lucky with that. But yeah, I cannot believe how much I love Rogue Legacy. There's been a lot of hatred and like anger that I've had with this game because it's so hard, dude. It's so hard.
Yeah, I feel like
But
I've cursed you with recommending it.
you have, but it's also been one of my most fun, and like if I get this, it'll be one of my proudest for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
I
I
haven't
think
struggled.
you're gonna get it at this point, which is cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna try to get it today. After we record. I want to try to grind out some more levels. And I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'm thinking about I don't know. I don't know. I have it's really cool because I have two versions of backup saves. I have my
Right.
Vita version to back up my save and my PS4 version to back up the save. So
Yeah.
if I fuck it up and I like back up the save on the wrong one, I can just upload it on the other. So it's
Yeah, what
very
you said about the vampirism is really good in the game because what's like annoying if you don't have it is that the rooms normally aren't that difficult when you've played enough of the game because they repeat. You eventually sort of learn the
Mhm.
layouts and only a few sort of trip you up. But what'll happen is enemies can like whittle you down bit by bit, and there's not that many opportunities for healing in the game. There's a few set spawns for healing, as you know, I'm sure, with the statues. But if you don't have the vampirism, what I notice happens to me is sort of enemies sort of are slowly sort of ticking me down over time. Whereas with the vampirism, you always outpace that, so it's quite a safe way to play, at least in terms of guaranteeing that you get a shot at the boss. But if obviously, spoilers for those who haven't played Rogue Legacy, the final boss is quite easy to access,
Yes.
and so the whole like vampirism of letting you navigate the castle isn't really as useful at that point. So yeah, it definitely makes sense to try and spec in a different way at that point. But for most of the game, the vampirism is super helpful.
Yeah, and again, there's positives and negatives with the vampirism stuff because you actually when you equip that stuff, it decreases your health. Like it's like minus 30 points per armor or whatever. And if you invest into the health skill points, then, at some point you're above where the negative health was, but it's still not there. But it's so beneficial because like you said, they slowly whittle you away, but you get that opportunity to go into the boss room with full health. Like you really do get that opportunity. So yeah, I've been using that. And then you can also use runes that also give you health back, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean that was going to be the last game I talked about, but it's been the forefront of everything I've been doing just because I don't know how it happened, It was just like I think what ended up happening is like I was like I don't think I'll ever beat one of the remix bosses, and I was just I had some downtime. I was like, I'll try it, I'll try it and I'll put it down. I'll try it and I'll put it down. And after about an hour and a half, I beat that first eyeball boss, the remix boss, and I felt so badass. I felt so badass. I was like, holy shit, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can. And then I went on and I continued to play that game. But a game, so starting back with where we were last week, like after I finished Stray, I picked up Pyre, and Pyre is made by Supergiant, and I've played Hades and I've played Bastion. I haven't played Transistor, which a lot of people recommend. But I do like their games a lot, so I wanted to pick this one up. And it feels like their cheapest game. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean like there was no voice acting, and it was very much a visual novel. And well, there was voice acting. I can't say there wasn't, but I mean like all of the written lines were not voiced, or the visual novel lines. It's like when you were in the gameplay, which is actually my favorite part of the game, absolutely. But when you were in the gameplay, there's like an announcer who's talking, and like when you get to the end, I'm pretty sure it's the same voice actor that does like the voice in Bastion, which is the narrator in Bastion. But like there's voice acting there, but there's not voice acting for the dozens of characters that are in the game. And I think that was slowing me down for a second because like I couldn't get into it. It took me over an hour to get into the game because I was like, I don't know if I'm in the mood for a visual novel. But then I started to play the gameplay, and the sports like gameplay of it, and like the different character sets and how you want to pair them up. It was unbelievable. It was like, I was like, man, it sucks that like I'm pretty sure this is like their weakest one in terms of like reception. It didn't sell as well. I mean, I know I skipped it, and it was just kind of like one of those things where I'm like, why did I do that? Because I really did love the way the game felt. And it was like, sometimes I'd get really angry because it's like, man, they're scoring on me and I just can't do anything to defend my goal. And it's just really, really cool and fun. And not only that, but like you grow attached to the characters in the game. And I read on the internet something like, this is kind of spoilers, but not really. There's like 20,000 permeations of the ending or something like that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, you can get so many endings, and it's based on the characters that you like and you don't like, and how you go about situations and dialogue choices and things like that in the game. And so it's really, really good story. I really did enjoy it. It just took me a while because, like, when you're going into a game and you're not expecting a visual novel, like, I wasn't going in like, oh yeah, I'm about to play a visual novel. I was kind of like, I'm going to play a sports game, like I know that's what this game is. And it was like I had to readjust. And once I readjusted, I loved this game so much, so much. And I love a lot of my my favorite characters, and like Ruki is absolutely my favorite character. And dude, there was this, okay, yeah, I can say this without spoiling it because I didn't want to, I was like, oh, I'll tell him about this character and this character. And it's like, he just had a crush on another character, and after I let that character go, it was like he let me he was like, I had a crush on. I was like, why would you not say that before I let them go? Like, what are you doing? It's just like, it was so awesome. And I was like, maybe on my next playthrough, or like whenever I play the game again, maybe I can make different dialogue choices to get those two characters together. And it's just like, holy shit, this game is like really deep and really, really cool. And I was really, really into it. I got 51 out of 51, got the platinum. It wasn't too hard, not really. There's a lot of workarounds and stuff that you can do. But I will say, like, there's trophies that are like, beat this specific team on the hardest difficulty. And those were really, really fun matches. They really pushed, my skill, and I lost a lot of matches. During the main story, I played on normal, and maybe I should have kicked it up because I didn't lose a single time. I did lose one time on purpose, which is actually a choice. You can lose on purpose, and there's a trophy that's called Merciful. And that's exactly what I was talking about, is like, there's so many characters in the game, and if you like a character that's not on your team more than, or like, yeah, if you like a character on the other team more than you like the characters on your team, then you're able to like manipulate it so that you can be beneficial for them. And that's why the trophy's called Merciful. And that's where you get so many permutations of the ending, because you can do so many variations of character combinations, and like the way that it's got really, really cool lore. Obviously, you can tell I really, really thoroughly enjoyed the game. It was absolutely surprising to me. And then Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. This is something that I wanted to play when it came out, but I just was not ready, I don't think. And I saw it on my friend's account, and I was like, you know what? I will replay them. And I guess you can auto pop the platinum. And so I did it. When I got into the game, it asked me if I wanted to upload my saves, and I was like, or download my saves. And I was like, yeah, I've already played these games. Why not? And when I did it, didn't know this, but it's buggy, which is awesome. I just want to say that first and foremost. This game bugged out when I uploaded my trophies. It gave me like 60% of the Uncharted trophies, and then there was a whole bunch of other trophies that weren't earned. And I was like, yes, that gives me an opportunity to like play this game and like hunt some trophies. And the Legacy of Thieves Collection is 2 games, actually. It's Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy remastered. And it was really cool to be, I had like maybe 75 out of the 101 trophies or something like that. Maybe less than that, maybe 65. So I had quite a bit of trophies to get, but all the trophies that popped were the ones that were annoying. And I think that would have taken away from the experience for me. So I didn't have to speedrun the game in like 3 hours. I didn't have to play the game on the hardest difficulty. I didn't have to get all the treasures. I didn't have to do all that stuff. It was all gameplay stuff. So hunting this game again was extremely fun. It was extremely fun. I was like, oh my God. And as I was playing this game, I was starting to get really emotional because, I don't know, AJ, have you played any of the Uncharted games?
Yes, I've played all of them except Lost Legacy.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say all of them because there's like stupid mobile games and all that. The main one, two, three, and four.
Yes, that's actually what's really cool about this platinum for me is I have all the mainline games now. I have 1, 2, 3 original. I have the 4 original. I have 1, 2, 3 remastered. I have Lost Legacy. I have 4 and Lost Legacy remastered now. You know, I have like every mainline Uncharted game. There's like a total of 10 platinums that I have that are all Uncharted games. And I also have Golden Abyss. But the reason that I asked if you played them, because again, I was emotional playing this game because I started to realize very quickly I will never have an adventure like this ever again. Like, Uncharted 4 is the end of Nathan Drake's saga, his adventure. Like, his adventure is done. The
You sure
games will
about
be.
that?
I really am sure about that. And
I mean,
like,
the movie was successful, right? So they're going to be like,
yeah,
let's do another one.
I don't think it'll be Nathan Drake. I don't think it will
Okay.
be. I think it'll be
You
other
think it'll be
characters.
his child. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Said spoilers before that, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I don't know, even if it's a child, like it has to be Nolan North. You know, Nolan North made Drake so charming and stuff. But I was playing it and I was just like, I was thinking if they make another one, and because you haven't played Lost Legacy, but Lost Legacy was so off. It felt like they copy and pasted Drake's personality into Chloe. Like, she randomly knows all of this world history and stuff. And like the way that, you know, Uncharted is structured is like, oh, he knows a lot about this specific historic event, and they do exposition through dialogue. And it's like, oh, this is really cool. But if you just throw another character to do that, it would feel so unnatural. And then on top of that, being like sarcastic and charming, it's like you throw that onto another character. It's just like, I don't know. It was one of those things where it's like, we had this adventure and we're not going to get them again. Like, that's it. that's the one. It was bittersweet, but it was also like I just realized like they are still one of my favorite franchises ever in video games. Like, I had so much fun playing the games. The characters are so good. The acting is so good. It was nostalgic for me too, because those games came out so long ago. Didn't Uncharted come out in like 2016? Uncharted 4? It's like, damn, dude, what the hell happened to time? It's so long ago. And
Yeah, that means it was what, the year that Overwatch won a Game of the Year.
oh, don't remind me. I hate that. I hate that so much, dude. I will never forget that. I took a video and it's like you could see on Keely's face, like, wow, Uncharted didn't win. It was really, really, really funny. But that game, man. I had a really, really good time with it, and I got to hunt it again, and that goes for Lost Legacy too. The interesting part about this is it's not 2 platinums. It was Uncharted 4 and then a DLC trophy list for Lost Legacy. And if you get all of the trophies in Lost Legacy, you get the last trophy in Uncharted 4, and that pops a platinum. So it was 101 trophies, and I got all of them. And I played both games, and that was platinum number 233 for me, which is super dope. I'm climbing the ladder, and it's I put 1 hour into Ghostwire. I was playing it pretty late at night. I think I started around like 11:45, and I was playing the game, and the visuals are awesome. Number one, like, it looks really good, but the spirits and stuff are supposed to be creepy and kind of scary or spooky, and it felt like I was very curious about what was going on in this world and like what events are taking place. And so, you know, the premise is like there's a bunch of people vanishing in Tokyo, and you're trying to figure out like what happened, and you see these spirits roaming around. And at first, I'm not scared of the spirits. Like, I was like, "Wow, those are really cool enemy designs," and like, this is really cool. Like, there's one dude who's like holding an umbrella. He's wearing a suit. He kind of looks like Slender Man. He has like no face, and I get it's supposed to be scary. But then I was walking around and I was reading, like, people's phones had dropped out. Like, you know, their clothes are laying all over the street, and you just see phones and stuff all over. And it's late at night, and I'm reading these messages of like what people were sending to people as they vanished. And it was creeping me out way more than the game was. Like way more, especially whenever I got into this like hospital section. I was like, holy shit, this is so scary. Like I had to stop because I was like, damn, this is too creepy. It's like every message that I read as I like turned corners, I was like, God damn, what's gonna be in here? Because it feels like they're setting up so much. There was like this surgeon who was, and this is all just in a text thing that you can read and totally miss, but he was in the operating room and his patient was about to die, and his patient was talking about a spirit that it was seen and like was describing it. And then as the patient died, the spirit like appeared right at the foot of the operating table. And I was like, holy shit, like this is so creepy. And so they locked down the doors in the surgical room, and it's just like they were trapped in here with the spirit. It was so interesting and creepy. And I was like, I'm so excited to get back to that game. I'm gonna play it probably after I platinum Rogue Legacy. So I've only got 2 trophies in the game. I'm at 2%, and I'm ready to really excited to get into it because like I was feeling it, but it was also late.
Yeah, it seems good.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about Ghostwire Tokyo. Didn't seem to set the world on fire when it launched, but it seemed interesting. That studio has never made a game quite like that before.
No,
So
they made Evil Within, which
yeah,
you and I hold in pretty high regard. So I'm really excited to see what this game's about.
yeah. I
And
guess as well though, you could thinking about it because Evil Within 1 was really linear, and then Evil Within 2 was really linear, but then had these like more open like hub environments. So I suppose it's sort of like they've almost got like stepping stones to then making like an open world game after that. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely interested to play it when it comes to Xbox for sure.
yeah, and linearity is another thing that I was feeling with Uncharted. Like I haven't it feels like linear games have gone by the wayside in the past 6 years, you know? Like I don't
Yeah,
ever
that's
play
because
linear games anymore.
you play Ubisoft all the time.
That's true. That's true. Okay. I can't defend myself there. That's the facts.
Uh, yeah. So is that everything you've been playing?
That is, yeah. I've been playing that's all I've been
Okay,
playing.
cool. So I've continued with PowerWash Simulator. I'm still not done. I've got like half the achievements. I'm still enjoying it. I actually went and did. There's a challenge mode in the game, so there's like a story mode and then a challenge mode, and there's some miscellaneous achievements. And there's an achievement for getting 5 gold medals in the challenge mode, and it was surprisingly difficult. Like nothing in this game is really that challenging. It's pretty casual and relaxing, but that challenge mode is tough in terms of the challenges are either there's time challenges, which are basically just like clean this thing in like as short a time as possible, and you have like a gold time, a silver time, and a bronze time. And then there's also a water challenge, which I found those really difficult, which is to like clean with the minimum amount of water from your power washer. So you have to be like really precise and really controlled with like the bursts and using like the right um, attachment size and stuff like that for everything. And yeah, so I got the 5 gold medals and did a couple of miscellaneous things. There was an achievement that was quite fun so every component or area you can clean, it has its own progress percentage. And there's an achievement to get like every object to 95 to at least 95% without actually cleaning, like fully cleaning any object. So that was quite tricky because to get a lot of the smaller items to 95%, you sort of have to be really careful to not fully clean it, and it's quite tough to be sort of so precise that you're like almost cleaning it, because in this game it has generosity in terms of when you've almost fully cleaned something, it will give you the rest of it. Like it will say, oh, it's cleaned, and it will just automatically wipe away the rest of the dirt, because it would probably be pretty unfun to have to get like every single pixel of dirt off of something before it counts as being cleaned. It would be like the game's already kind of tedious and intentionally so, but that would just be ridiculous. So that achievement was pretty tricky as well. And I played a little more of the main campaign, but not too much. So I need to get back to it really.
How many hours in are you?
Maybe 15, 16 or so. I think it's about think I'm probably about halfway through the campaign. I think there's around 200 stars, and I think I'm around 90 or so. So I think I'm about halfway through the campaign, but I assume the levels are going to keep getting longer. So probably maybe like a third of the way through the campaign effectively.
This game is such an anomaly. Like, it's been so interesting. I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and I'm hearing people talk about it. And I just heard someone who retired from the industry say that they played 50 hours of this game, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, this is nuts. I guess it's such like a relaxing game. It's kind of satisfying, and it's also like well done, I guess. So it's
Yeah,
really cool that you're sticking with it, and I want to hear you do it through, or like.
well, yeah, I talked about it before, that it was like it came at a really good time for me because I needed something to do in like short spans of free time and that I could play on my laptop at like a moment's notice and not have to get fully invested in. Although I've noticed I tend to get invested in like finishing a level, and a level can be like an hour to 2 hours long. But because you just like, even when you want to stop, let's say you have to clean like a building or whatever, like a house, you have to like at least finish the wall that you're cleaning before you stop. Like there's something in you that like maybe it's from cleaning stuff in real life, but you just feel like, oh, I have to finish this one thing that I'm doing at least, or finish like the outskirts of the house first, and then I can stop. So you do get some of that with the game, but it's been a good experience. I think recently I've been playing like less and less of it, so I might take a break. I'm not really sure. It depends on what things are like over the next couple of weeks, I guess. I mean, I'm going to actually, yeah, this weekend I'm going away from home. So what I could do is take my laptop with me and play some then. I think that's a good idea, actually. But yeah, so PowerWash Simulator, fun time, good game, enjoying it quite a bit. Then I've also finished, well, also been playing and finished Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition. So I love this game. This game's fantastic. I feel like it's a 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10. Really, really great. I finished it to 112% and then got the other achievements. So you have to do 112%, and then there's a speed run, a 5 hour speed run that you have to do. But it's got a lot of margin for error, and there's a ton of cool skips in this game where you can skip items that I first thought were mandatory. So there's a double jump in the game, but you don't need it to beat the game. There's meant to be a boss that's locked off behind, like a mandatory boss locked off behind the double jump. But what you can do is, this game has a mechanic called like the pogo, which is where you use your downward slash off of an enemy or off of spikes, and it will bounce you off of it, and you can do it consecutively. So you just hold down and tap the X button. I know Shovel Knight has like a pogo as well, but that works a little differently. I think you can just hold the button down. You can just hold to do it, but you have to time it in Hollow Knight. And some of the platforming is based around this. But there's also destructible items in the environment, sort of in the backgrounds, that you can bounce off of. And if you do that just right in one section, you can skip to like a boss fight that you meant to have a double jump for. So I did that for the speedrun, and that was really, really fun. And it was just cool to sort of, kind of feels like you're breaking the game, but not really, because it's also intended by the devs, because it's just such a clever game that you're able to do that. So I did the speedrun. Speedrun was fine. I think my final playthrough took me like 2.5 hours of that, so about half the time. You could definitely get lost or do some other things. The thing for me was that during the speedrun, I didn't want to buy any of the maps, which means if you got lost, you'd like not be able to know where you are. You'd have to properly know the environment and know where you are relative to everything else. But I knew my route. I already planned out my route in advance, so I knew what I'd be seeing, and I'd already beaten the game, so that made it a lot easier.
Can you tell me if, because I've been playing, Rogue Legacy, and with my enjoyment of it and the difficulty of it, is Hollow Knight easier or harder than it?
In terms of the completion, I'd say it's probably easier.
Okay.
In terms of the game itself, I'd say it's harder. I mean, I don't think you can make yourself as overpowered as you can in Rogue Legacy, but specifically because of the completion, because in Rogue Legacy, you have to do super hard boss fights. Yeah. And you can't like boost your stats out of it. You have to get good basically. I
Yeah,
think Hollow
that's
Knight is probably easier. On PlayStation, the completion is a lot easier than on Xbox because I don't
oh
think you have to do any of the speedruns and you don't have to do Steel Soul mode. So Steel Soul mode is where when you die once, you have to restart the whole game. And there's an achievement on Xbox to 100% the game in that mode. But this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a nightmare. But one reason it's not that bad is because the most damage any enemy can do is 2 masks. And you'll have, like, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 8 masks or so in the game. So the most damage anything can do is 2 masks. And you get invincibility frames after you get hit. I guess you could take 3 damage technically, because if an enemy that does 2 damage knocks you into like some spikes or something, it'll do an extra piece of damage when you hit the spikes. But the point is, nothing in the game can insta kill you. Like, as long as you're keeping your health topped up and not like going into areas where you're sort of risking it on like 1 HP or whatever, you're always going to be able to get out of situations except for boss fights. But when you go into boss fights, you're going to already prepare around that boss fight at that point, because you're not going to do this as a first playthrough. And the other reason it's not as bad as I thought it would be is I mentioned before that in my first playthrough I got a completion percentage of 112%. So there's a total of 112%, and you only need to get 100% in Steel Soul. So you can basically say, like, when you plan out this playthrough, you can say, oh, I don't like this 12%, or I'm not good at this 12%, or this 12%'s the hardest section of the game, and then just not do any of that stuff. So for me, I avoided doing, there's like a Colosseum that's really difficult. I was like, okay, I'm just not going to risk it. And some other stuff I'm not going to risk. And then in the end, I ended up, I think, completing it like 104% anyway. So I could have made it even easier for myself if I wanted to. So getting to the 100% isn't that bad. The other thing that makes this easier is the final boss, like the final mandatory boss of the game, isn't that difficult. In fact, he's a boss where I think people call it face tanking, but basically there's some bosses in this game where when you get enough health and enough damage upgrades and good enough charms, which are things that you equip, you can basically just like race the boss. Like, you can just stand in front of him and just mash the attack button and just walk towards him, and even though he's hitting you and you're not dodging, you will kill him before he kills you. Like, you're essentially racing them to death. And the final boss is one of those bosses where you can basically do really minimal dodging and just attack him over and over, and you'll win if you have like the right setup. So the final boss isn't stressful, because that would be a stress point for the run, because you have to beat the game at 100%, so you have to actually kill a final boss to get the achievement. So that wasn't too bad. I had one really close call. There's a boss called the Traitor Lord, and he does a lot of damage and he attacks very quickly. And didn't need to fight him, but I did anyway. I figured I was good at the fight, but without, there's a dodge upgrade that you can get, and I didn't have that upgrade, which makes him more difficult. So he nearly killed me. I think I was one hit away from death, so that was pretty stressful. But other than that, I didn't have any close calls. So, and I got it on my first attempt, which was surprising. But I played fairly cautiously.
it's so interesting hearing you talk about this, because I just looked up those guides while you were describing this, and it's ridiculous. It's almost like the guide writers are sissies, because you said it's a little bit easier than what you anticipated, but I'm just seeing like 10 out of 10 difficulty, 10 out of 10 difficulty on all of the guides, and it's like Rogue Legacy is 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
What is that about? What is that about?
Well, okay, so the most difficult part of the completion for me, and you can't avoid this on PlayStation, you also have to do it, is the Pantheon of Hallownest. And
That's what I was reading. Yep.
so kind of gameplay spoilers, but for this, it's part of a DLC that's in the default PS4 and Xbox versions of the game. You have to face every boss in the game in a row, and that's about 40 boss fights. And after 10 bosses, you get a break where you can swap out the relics that you're using, you can swap, or the charms that you're using, you can rest to get to full HP, and you can refill your soul gauge as well. So it's not like 40 in a row on one health bar. And your soul gauge as well, you can use that as a heal in fights as well. So you can heal within the fights if you find a good opportunity to heal. It's kind of like, I mean, lots of games do this, but obviously the lazy comparison is to say it's kind of like Dark Souls with the Estus Flask, where it's like you choose when to heal, but you make yourself vulnerable while you're healing. It's kind of like that in Hollow Knight. And also, so what helped me for this is there's other pantheons before this to unlock this, where you have to do, I think it's 10 bosses in a row, and each of them is increasing in difficulty. But if you do the other pantheons with these things called bindings, and what bindings are like optional extra challenges that make it even harder. So you can do a binding that reduces your nail damage, which your nail is like your sword essentially. You can do it so it restricts the amount of soul that you can use. You can do a binding that reduces your health to 4 masks, and you can do a binding that makes it so none of your charms are active. And if you do these bindings on the earlier pantheons, you end up getting in the break sections after every like 10 bosses, you end up getting temporary health, so additional temporary like +4 health. And I say temporary as in it stays forever, but when you get hit and you lose it, it's gone. Like you can't refill it, you can't reheal it, whereas your regular health you can obviously heal. So it's kind of like spirit hearts from the Binding of Isaac, or soul hearts from the Binding of Isaac in that sense. So that
That's really
helped
cool.
as well to get like even more health. You want to go into these pantheon things when you've already done everything in the main game. So you want to like max out your damage, max out the amount of HP you have, max out the amount of soul that you can carry, get like the best charms in the game, because it is the ultimate challenge. So yeah, you have to fight every boss in the game in a row. The annoying things about this, there's a few annoying things, but the first is how long it takes. It's a real test of endurance. Each attempt will take you at least 30 to 40 minutes, and that's if you're going like decently quickly as well. That's assuming you know how to fight every boss. So, getting quite far through and then failing can be quite frustrating. The other thing that's really annoying about it is that the fights tend to get harder and harder the further through the pantheon you get. So the first fights are like the earliest bosses in the game that are quite easy, and obviously now that you're like maxed out, they pretty much pose no problem. They sometimes make the boss arena more difficult. There's more difficult variants of the early bosses, and they give you all of those. And also there's a few remixed new fights as well that you can't fight anywhere else, which is really mean, because you have to basically get to that fight in the Pantheon to even experience them for the first time. The other thing that's annoying, although I'll say something that's good about it. So after the first 10 fights, you get a break, and then I think after the next 10 fights, you get a break. After that, I think every 5 fights you get a break. So the developers know that the fights are getting like more and more difficult, so they're giving you more and more breaks where you can reheal to full and get those temporary HP and stuff like that. But the final 3 fights are the hardest bosses in the game, and 2 of them you need to do back to back, so the final 2 you have to do in a row. You get a break between like the third to last one and the final 2. And so what ended up happening for me was the early fights kind of felt like filler, and I didn't even have to like pay attention to them, because you get like a free heal every 10 fights, so you just sort of feel like the first ones you can just play really casually and really high risk and not actually sort of do the fights properly, and that gets kind of boring. But then when you get right to the end, things ramp up so much that it's like so intense, and you have to be on like, you have to just be completely cracked in terms of how you're playing. And the other annoying thing, so what I really like about this is that there's an area called the Hall of Gods where you can practice every fight. So you can go up to like, there's a bunch of statues for all the bosses. You can go up to the boss and you can practice. And you can practice in like regular mode. You can practice in ascended mode, which means the boss does double damage and has a harder arena. Or you can practice in radiant mode, which means the boss will kill you in one hit. And so it's really cool that you can, like, if you attempt this and you're like, damn, I keep dying on boss 16, right? I'm going to go practice boss 16, and I'm just going to do that fight over and over and over again until I can beat him. What I did was I had a rule of, I need to be able to beat this boss 3 times in a row. Other people say to do it on Ascended or do it on Radiant, but for me, I found I just want to be consistent on beating the boss in like the regular mode. So just like, can I beat this boss 3 times in a row? If yes, then I feel like I've learned it and I'm ready to go back to the Pantheon. But the really annoying thing is that to actually fight a boss in the Hall of Gods, you have to have faced them before in a Pantheon or in the world. And the reason this is annoying in this case is the final boss in the Pantheon is by far the hardest, and you can't fight him anywhere else but the Pantheon for the first time. So he's nowhere else in the game, or she's nowhere else in the game, and what that means is you have to fight 39 bosses to then basically die to the last boss because you've not seen that boss before. And only then can you actually practice that boss. So it feels like your first run that has like the potential to win is just going to get cut down because you're just seeing this boss for the first time and playing against it for the first time, and it's so difficult. Because what happened to me was I died to that boss on my first attempt of the Pantheon, and then I had to practice that boss for hours. I think like an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, over and over again until I could beat that boss. And even then, I still can't do it that consistently. I can probably do it with like a 70% win rate or so, but not by no means a guaranteed win every time I fight him or her. Sorry, and yeah, it's a really tough fight. And then every time I did it, so I did this on my fourth attempt, which I think doing it in 4 tries is pretty good, like probably above average. But also, again, keep in mind each attempt takes about 40 minutes. So even doing it within like the first 5 tries, it's still a big time commitment. Every time that I'd die to the final boss. So I'd get through like all 39 fights, and then the last one would, and it speaks to how brutal the challenge is, but also how they put like the most difficult by far right at the end, and that's just so stressful, and the adrenaline gets pumping because you've committed so much to the run, and then you have to do it, and you can get for the final boss you can get really really bad patterns sometimes and really good patterns sometimes. That's why I said my win rate was only around 70%, because for that fight specifically, I wanted to get good enough at it that if like I had like a nightmare run, like if I had like the worst patterns ever, I still wanted to be able to beat it. And I could for the most part, but there's some stuff that just it's some stuff is really really hard to dodge. The way the final fight acts is so every other boss in the game and every boss in most games, bosses, they'll do an attack and then they'll do another attack, but they only do a second attack after the first attack has ended, which it sounds obvious, right? This boss, basically halfway through its attack, it starts the next attack. So it will have 2 attacks on screen for pretty much all of the fight, which means you have to be proactive about dodging. So, and sometimes you can do this, sometimes you can't. It depends on the attack. But if like an attack is coming at you, like there's like a beam of light, for example, coming at you, you want to dodge through it as early as possible, because if you don't, it's going to be still coming for you and on screen while the next attack is also going at the same time, and then the dodge is way harder to do. So because the boss has 2 attacks on screen at all times, pretty much, it means that depending on what attacks it does, there's lots of, we've said permutations before, there's lots of permutations of what, I guess, combinations of attacks can be on screen at once. And so sometimes you can get like a real nightmare situation with the attacks. And then there's also additional hazards in the different phases of the fight as well, like environmental hazards, like falling onto spikes or into a pit or things like that. So then there's that plus the 2 attacks. And as you can imagine, if you don't play optimally or get kind of screwed, things can become really bad really quickly. And the boss also does double damage. There's 2 health worth of damage per hit. And so things can go wrong really, 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 really quickly. And the time where I beat this fight and beat the Pantheon, I beat it on 1 HP remaining. So it was like the most intense experience I've had in a while, because the boss has multiple phases, and on the second to last phase, I got hit to 1 HP, and so I had to do all of the last phase on 1 health, and if like one thing hit me, it would have been over. And I died at that stage like twice before, so I was just like, I just had to. And the problem was as well is you can play like when you're on a final phase of a boss fight, what I talked about earlier, where you can just like tank the hits and just like hit the boss over and over. obviously if you're on 1 health, you can't do that. So you have to play that final phase really slowly as well, which makes it feel even worse because you have to be super conservative because you're like you don't want to commit to an attack if it's about to do an attack because you might just die and not have the chance to dodge. So you have to play it like really slow. But because you're 1 health, you don't want to play it slow because you're like your heart's racing and you just want it to be over at that stage. So yeah, I'll have to share with you the clip because I clipped it when I finally won at some point. But
Yeah, that's
just
so good. And like, it's so funny, you're describing this and going back to Rogue Legacy, I felt this recently, which I haven't felt in a long time. It's just like, being against this boss and, you're getting so close and your health is low and like my heart was just beating out of my chest, dude. I could hear it in my head. Like it was just so freaking high intensity and adrenaline. And it's like, I need a second. I need a break. Like I'm so close to this boss, but it's like it's so amazing, and you have 1 HP left, dude. Oh god damn.
yeah, the fight overall I'd say is fair. I think sometimes you can get like what I was saying earlier about you can get like a really bad pattern
Yeah.
that is not impossible to dodge, but very close to impossible to dodge. I'm pretty sure, or that there were some times where I got hit, and it is very very rare. It would happen maybe like at most once per fight, where you're like, okay, there was no way I'd be able to read that situation and know how to dodge it without like I don't know putting in a lot more hours into the fight and seeing like every variation that's possible. But overall, the fight's fair because even though there's like I don't know, very rarely you get that happen to you. You'd never have it happen to you enough so that it could kill you, if that makes sense. Like it might, if you get unlucky, it might happen like once per fight, but obviously you don't die in 1 hit, so everything else is up to you really. But it wouldn't even be once per fight. That's kind of on the high end. It's normally like once every 3 fights or so you get an attack where you're just like, oh my god, I don't know how I would have dodged that. But yeah, for the most part, it's totally fine in terms of how fair that fight is, which makes it feel really satisfying because I love difficult boss fights that are fair. And also Hollow Knight, I think the Pantheon is quite fun still because Hollow Knight has really good boss fights, like fantastic boss fights generally. There's some where you're like, just get this over with, this sucks. But especially for the first playthrough, it's a lot of the bosses are amazing. Some of the fights are sort of gimmicky, and then you kind of get sick of them in the Pantheon. But for the most part, there's some like amazing fights. And also, what's quite good about it is that I said it was bad that the hardest fights are at the end, but some of those fights tend to be the best fights, the most fun fights. Especially there's a fight called Pure Vessel that I really love. So you've kind of got like stuff to look forward to as well while you're playing it. Even though it's really difficult, you sort of like, okay, these are the hardest fights, but these are some of the best fights. So it's kind of balances out a little. So yeah, I definitely recommend Hollow Knight. I mean, to complete it, you're gonna have to, put effort in. You're gonna have to learn the fights and learn a lot of the mechanics really well. But it's not. I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think Rogue Legacy is probably harder, but they're similar, I'd say, in difficulty. I don't think Hollow Knight's definitely not an easy completion, but it's a doable one. I think
How do you
it could be way meaner. It could be way harder than it is.
how do you think it would be if this is like a back burner game? Do you think that you'd come out of rhythm with the game and that you wouldn't be able to learn some of these boss moves, or do you think that it could be like, oh, 1 week you're trying a couple times, maybe you do like 2 runs because they're like 40 minutes to an hour
Maybe.
each?
I mean, I don't think it'd take that long. I think I think if you just play through the game normally, around half of those fights, like half of those 40 fights, you're gonna already have mastered them naturally, or at
Yeah.
least beaten them. Like when I was practicing fights for it in the Hall of Gods, I was practicing 3 fights, basically. Some people practice maybe 4 fights, maybe 5 fights ish. There's basically about 10 bosses that are actually sort of genuinely really difficult, I guess. Most people will practice 3 fights, I'd say. Like there's 3 fights to me that stand out as like both this is difficult, this boss has a lot of health, and also things could go wrong really, really quickly because these bosses do double damage. So, and they attack really quickly with very short telegraphs. But everything's completely fair about the fights, and yeah, I think there's only like three where you'd be like, okay, I need to practice. I think the rest you'd be okay with. Like the rest, you'll probably die to them in the main game, and from dying to them in the main game a few times, you'll get good at it, and then once you're good at it, you'll be fine for the Pantheon at that point because it will be like locked in. The knowledge will be there, and you'll be fine. I think. Yeah, so it's not that daunting. I mean, there's about 20 fights that you will just steamroll by that point because you'll just have so much, like you'll have so many upgrades, and they'll be like early game bosses that it won't even be a problem. So it's not as bad as it seems. Like the number in terms of the bosses isn't really the problem. It's just the last few fights in a row, really. That's the only challenge about it. So I don't think it's as bad as people necessarily think it is. I guess it's bad if you don't have consistency, because again, it's kind of like a marathon, so you have to have that consistency. But yeah, I mean, there's these dreamer bosses. There's a couple that are really, really annoying. But for the most of them, you can actually just tank their hits and still do quite well, I feel like. So yeah, I don't think it's that bad in terms of the completion. But that will be the one thing, that Pantheon will be the one thing that I think blocks people from getting the completion. I think everything else is fine. And everything else is like amazing. I mean, the whole game's amazing. I really love it. So I think it's worth going for it, and I think it's good because I like that achievement overall. I think because it feels like, I mean, first of all, you get an extra ending for doing that. So
Oh,
like you
cool.
get like lore and story and an ending. So you get rewarded in that sense. You get rewarded with an achievement and a trophy, and it feels like you've mastered the game. And I always like that. I like a difficult achievement to sort of cap off a game that you really enjoy, because then you can be proud of the completion and you can be proud of yourself and happy of the experience that you had with the game. So yeah, I'd still recommend it, definitely, and I think you could do it. I think a lot of people could do it. The game's not as, I feel like the game's not as fast paced as maybe it looks. Sometimes it looks easier than it is, but there's like the platforming is quite simple in the game as well, which helps. And the combat mechanics, there's a lot of ways you can upgrade your character to sort of make it a lot easier. So yeah, it's great, and it's one of my favorites for sure. I'm really excited for Hollow Knight Silk Song now. Um, but yeah, so I was playing Escape Academy as well, which
Mhm.
is, it's a game on Game Pass. It's basically a university that's like devoted to escape rooms and I guess escapologists. And it's kind of like a different world where like people are debating like escaping and whether it's good for society. Like it's kind of like a society where it's like put a lot of emphasis into it, or at least this university has. So it's kind of weird in that sense. I wasn't really too into the story, to be honest, but I thought the world was quite cool. And Maka has a guide for getting every achievement in about an hour. And I played a bit of it normally and a bit of it, and most of it using the guide. But I feel conflicted with this game because it's an easy completion, but it ruins a lot of the fun of the game using the guide. And I actually think this game is really well made and interesting and compelling. So I kind of recommend that people don't do what I did, which is use the guide for a lot of it, and should probably play it properly. And I might go back to it. I'm considering going back to it because I don't remember the puzzle solutions or anything at this point. So it, I think I'd probably want to go back to it in maybe a couple of months or so when I've like fully forgotten everything. But I wasn't expecting it to be as cool and interesting as it was. So every level's a different, I guess, series of escape rooms, but they're all like, I don't know, that they've all got like, there's so much attention to detail, and it's heavily stylized, and the escape rooms aren't like they're not like, oh, you're just in a room and it's just a room and you just do puzzles or whatever. It's like the theme is like, oh, you're in a you're in this kitchen and you have to figure out how to open these locks to get this milkshake, and then you get the milkshake, and then it turns out the milkshake's actually deadly poison, and you've been poisoned, and now you've got 15 minutes make it like synthesize the antidote to the poison, and so you have to go into like the dining area, into like the freezer or the kitchen to like get these compounds to like save yourself and stuff like that.
That
Like
is so cool.
it's really like every level has like these different themes, and they keep switching it up. Like, you know, there's like one where you got to like make a bomb and defuse a bomb and things like that. And yeah, they really go far with it. There's like one where you're in a place that's flooding with water, and you have to like get these codes to these doors to like go up ladders to get away from it before you drown. And yeah, they really are creative with the scenarios they put you in, and it's got co-op for the game as well. And I could imagine it being amazing fun with friends as like this casual game that you just sort of play to like, you know, each try and solve different parts of the part. I mean, just like an escape room in real life is way more fun with other people. I imagine this is great with friends, and it's really good that it's on Game Pass, because it seems like that's like a good way for people to meet up and join together and give this game a try.
That is so awesome to hear. So number one, this game is super relevant to me right now because one of my very best friends, him and I love doing escape rooms, and he is moving to DC here in about 2 weeks, and just the thought of co-op with this game is so awesome. Like, this is, I was telling him, like, dude, we got to find a co-op game to play together, because I don't really play multiplayer and he's big on multiplayer, but I'm like, I'm down to jump into any co-op game at all, like all over. And since we both have like this love for escape rooms, like him and I have traveled around together, which it's not going to end. I just want to say that, like, our friendship isn't ending or anything. It's just like a new chapter. And when we would travel together, we would like, and we went to Austin for RTX. And when we were there, we did a escape room in Austin, and we've done escape rooms in a couple different cities here in Kansas. And we've been to like Oklahoma City, and like, we just kind of, everywhere we go, we kind of try to do these escape rooms. And so this idea of like these really cool game designed escape rooms with like mechanics where you're like poisoned and stuff, I think that's like so cool. But man, now there's a co-op element. This is amazing. And what's this game called?
It's called Escape Academy. It's really good. Look it up. I can send you a link to it maybe.
I'm adding it to my notes right now, and I'm gonna send it to my buddy.
Yeah,
like,
I
immediately.
really recommend it. I recommend it for listeners as well. I think it's really inventive and surprising, and the puzzles feel like they make sense. Like, they're not, because it's really difficult making a good puzzle, I think, because you know, you need the puzzle to like not be something that you get instantly, that you just think like, oh, it's just that, the solution's that. You need it to be something that you have to sort of think about and think laterally and outside the box about, but you can't have it be like ridiculous, like, you know, the classic like adventure game puzzles where it just doesn't make any sense, you know. So you have to have the puzzle make sense, but also not be something that you figure out immediately, and something that you feel sort of proud of yourself for figuring out. And from when I was playing the game normally, I could tell that the puzzles were like that from what I played. Like, they really hit that balance well. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, it'd be a really good co-op game. I feel like good single player as well. Probably a really cool game to stream as well, if anyone's into that, because you could have like chat having like input as well, assuming they don't just like look up the solutions. But you know, you could have a really good time with that game for sure. So yeah, so that was Escape Academy. The next game I've been playing Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. So I was reminded by talking to Sean and some others that I've got the completion for every modern Crash game. So that's ignoring the weird like mid to late 2000s like Xbox 360, like, you know, like Crash of the Titans and stuff like that. I haven't played those, but every like modern one in terms of like the Insane trilogy and Crash Bandicoot 4. But I don't have the CTR completion, and I don't know why, because I really loved playing CTR growing up on the PS1, and I bought the CTR remake when it came out, but I ended up getting distracted. So I think when I played it when it came out, I realized I needed a ton of practice, because CTR, the way it plays, is really unique in terms of kart races, because that game relies on, you have to do the power sliding like boost mechanic, and you pretty much want to be doing that like constantly, like around the track all the time. And it's like a very specific, like particular technique. I guess people who have played it will know what I'm talking about in terms of like you have to like slide one way and then you have to press like the hop button at like certain times and then you build up boost and then you want to like switch over to the other side at like another turn. And some maps are like quite easy to like the turns are quite wide that you can do that quite easily, and some are really tricky to get that done. So it requires a lot of practice both in terms of like mechanically and then also in terms of learning the maps. So I'm pretty sure that might be why I dropped it the first time, because I was like, okay, so I gotta really put a lot into this, and I might have just come off like a really hard game. But I've been liking it a ton since I've been playing it. I've not played too much of it still though, which is sort of where we're gonna get into, I guess, the main topic to some extent, because I wanted to play to get a few more achievements in it because I realized I'm very close to 600,000 gamer score. So I wanted to line up like a completion with exactly 600,000 gamer score. So I wanted to like the last achievement in a game to then be my 600k like milestone. And I decided I wanted Outer Wilds to be this game. So I was playing CTR to basically get like I think I had to get like 150 gamer score in it. So I just played enough to like get to that point and then put it away. Although CTR would have been a good game for that milestone as well, to be honest, because I used to love that game and I love the remake as well. So, but I got my gamer score up to a point where there's 1,870 gamer score in Outer Wilds, including the DLC, the Echoes of the Eye DLC, and all of that will take me up to 600k. So I've also been playing Outer Wilds, and I'd played a good amount of this game before on PC, and I'd also watched Joseph Anderson stream it, and I've also heard like Skill Up and tons of other people talk about it as well, talk about how much they love it. But I'd never played it on Xbox. I'd never got any achievements in it because the achievements sort of scared me off for two reasons. One was that a couple of them are glitched or were glitched, and obviously that always is like fuck this game, right? And then the other reason is they have awkward gamer score values. There's a lot of achievements that end in a 6, so like 36 gamer score or whatever. And I also wanted to wait for the DLC to be out before I played it on Xbox as well, because I I kind of hate when I usually like when you can just play the game and then all the DLC back to back. It's quite cool to do that. It depends, because if the game is like massive and then the DLC is massive, sometimes that sucks. But for the most part, I like doing that rather than like going back for the DLC, because a lot of the time with DLCs, it's for like the most dedicated fans, and that usually means it's harder than the stuff in the main game or requires a lot of sort of insight from the main game. And so if you go back to it like years later, you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I can't deal with this. So I wanted to wait for the DLC to be out to just like do everything all at once. But there's also a next gen patch coming in September, but I'm not going to wait for that. The game's 30 FPS right now, which is kind of annoying, but I'm finding it completely playable. Like, I'm not really having any issues where I feel like I need to wait for the next gen patch. Also, the pessimist in me is worried that the next gen patch might break some things in the game just because, big updates can break stuff sometimes. So I'm kind of like, forget it. I'll just do it now, because I don't want to say like, oh, I'll wait for this, I'll wait for this, I'll wait for this, and then like end up waiting like even more for something else. So I just figure I'll just do it now, and it's like a really good opportunity to do it now. And this game's amazing. I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like people should experience it as blindly as possible. It's an exploration based game where you're a Hearthian on a planet called Timber Hearth, and you go out and explore the Outer Wilds, which is the name of the solar system that you're in. And it's weird. I was playing this and this is a very unqualified comparison to make, because A, the game has vastly improved, and B, I haven't actually played the other game in the comparison, but it kind of felt like an opposite of No Man's Sky, or what I imagined No Man's Sky to be at launch, because it's like, in this game, it's a solar system of a few planets, and each one is pretty small, but really dense with lots of secrets and crazy things to find, and it's so handcrafted, and there's no crafting elements or building or many, I guess, survival aspects to the game. And so Outer Wilds, it has this simplicity to it where it's just like, here's a few things, like do whatever you want in whatever order, but know that you're getting like this very highly curated experience. And there's so much to do and so much to find that it just feels fantastic. And the other thing I really love about this game is the physics simulation is really good. So flying through space and just like dealing with the orbital mechanics around planets and the sun, it just feels great. Everything, it's like a real love letter to astrophysics, which I wasn't expecting so much. And I really like the story and the mysteries in the game as well. And it's just everything about this game is just crazy to me. And I don't understand how they made it, really, because it's like you load it up and you go out wherever you want in the solar system. Obviously, you're limited. You're quite limited in that there's only like a few planets and a few places to go. But the game's so open, yet is so intricate and has like a set story with a ton of information that it's like, I don't know how they made sure that everything, like how do they make sure that you don't break the game or that you don't go to things in the wrong order? Like there is no wrong order, but everyone approaches it differently, if that makes sense. So it's such like it must have been crazy to like design that. Like I don't know how they did it to like make it work, to make it so that you're not on rails with stuff, but everything also makes sense and doesn't feel too intimidating at the same time. And I always find like it's like there's this web of like connecting things where you like find out information about one thing and then it sort of sparks your imagination of like, oh, I should check out this thing, or like I should look at this, or I want to talk to this person about this. And everything you find kind of like makes more of those links where you're like, oh, I should do, okay, so now I know this and I should do this. And you just keep going like that and that. And there's also like you have like a ship log as well where you can look into it, and it will like nudge you towards stuff as well. But I found like naturally what I was thinking from the writing is reflected in the ship log, which is just so good in terms of immersion, because it's like their objective of like through that dialogue or through that writing or through that discovery, they like want you to think about this other thing, and then in the ship log it's like completely reflected like what you were thinking basically. It's incredible. It's such a unique game. There's nothing really like it. And yeah, it feels so rewarding to play. And so, I mean, the soundtrack to this game is incredible as well. The way they use music is fantastic. It's I really like how it looks visually and in terms of the style of the game. I've basically complimented everything about it at this point. The gameplay, the story, the mechanics, the music, the world, everything. It's incredible. So I'm really happy this is going to be hopefully my 600,000 game.
That is so cool. I've never heard anything bad about the Outer Wilds. It's like this. It's almost like a cult classic where there's just anyone who's played it is absolutely smitten with it, just completely in love. And it's really cool to hear that you're having that same experience, because it seems like everybody has that same experience, no matter how you tackle the game. And there's something in me that just like wants to understand, and I want to play it at some point, because it's incredible that they get this like whole entire physics and planetary system working, and it's all going at like the same time. And so it's just like super, super interesting. And people were even talking about the DLC that they made and how, it's just as good as the original game. And, it's like a don't skip. So very cool. Very cool. And also awesome that you added up to the milestone.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say we'll go into the topic now, which is to just talk about milestones in general, and if there's any like noteworthy ones and how you feel about them. But for me, I don't always do milestone stuff, and I think part of it is probably because on Xbox it's kind of annoying in that for platinums it's kind of easier, right? Because you get a platinum and then that's just +1 to the platinum count. Whereas with Gamerscore it's so fluid, and unless you're getting all the gamer score in every game that you play, and you're not moving to another game before you've completed the one previously, you're pretty much never going to be at like a nice 600,000, 601, 602, 603. You're not going to be at like, yeah, you're not going to be at like those like even intervals. so it can be quite awkward. Like you need like an uneven amount to sort of get yourself into a position where you can make something the 600k game for me at least. Like with Outer Wilds as well, it's like 1,870 points, so that's like an awkward number to like navigate towards as well. And yeah, for me, I like to take advantage of an upcoming milestone if there's something special, and like if it lines up with like me really wanting to play something and really amped up to play something. It's just whether that lines up or not. And I thought I'd give a couple of examples as well, because I look back and my 500k milestone, it like wasn't anything special at all. It was like Black Ops Cold War, and it was like I'm pretty sure I hit 500k like halfway through the achievement list or whatever. Like it wasn't even like the final achievement. And Black Ops Cold War, I like that game. It's a good game. I completed it, but you know, it's not like a special game for me. It's not really meaningful for me. The most meaningful thing about it at this point is probably that it was the 500k game for me in terms of how much it means to me. But my 400k game was, I was clearly more interested in getting a decent milestone for that one, because that was Hitman Blood Money. And I absolutely adore that game. It's my favorite Hitman game. It's my favorite stealth game ever, I think. It's just so good in every way. I completed it on I completed the Xbox One remaster, and I also completed the original 360 backwards compatible version of it as well. I did it twice. I was like, I love this so much, I'm just going to do it back to back. And then I made it so it lined up with my 400k as well. So yeah, I'm happy to have Outer Wilds as that, and like an excuse to talk about it more and more in that sense, and to have Hitman. But yeah, I'm disappointed in my 500k, and I think it is just purely because it's quite awkward to line it up. And if you know, it's the case of like, I'm sure what happened was for like Black Ops Cold War, I was probably nearing 500k, and Black Ops comes out, and it's like, well, this has come out and I really want to play it. And especially because it's a multiplayer game for a lot of it, you want to play multiplayer games as soon as they come out, because you know the servers are most active, people are talking about it more, people haven't like completely leveled themselves up to like know like the ridiculous meta and stuff, so you want to play it immediately. And then it, you know, was the case of like, oh well, I'm just going to hit 500k with this game, like, you know, there's no way around it. And I think that for me is a thing with milestones, where it's like I don't want to stop myself from doing something else. Like, you know, there is pressure now for me with Outer Wilds. Like now I need to just play Outer Wilds until I finish Outer Wilds. I basically can't risk getting an achievement in something else. Or I could, but you know, I could and then work around it probably. But you know, you do have like that aspect of like you need to commit to it, and that can be kind of stressful in itself. And then if it's stressful, it's like, why are you even doing it? You know, because you should, you know, this all should be fun. You shouldn't be stressing over it or making it feel like it's like work or like a job or anything. It should just all be for fun. So I think having that balance is important in terms of milestones as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited to hear you talk about your milestones, because I was curious how you would pick them and how they'd be done. And it's interesting you talk about how it's like, it's not pretty to, you know, get to 500,000 and not have it be on the perfect dot. But it's like, it's the same thing for trophies, with the number of trophies that I have. Because I actually was going to talk about, you know, some of the milestones that I hit. I just recently, so I'm at 12,508 trophies. So I just reached the 12,500 trophy, and it was from Ghostwire, and it was just for completing chapter 1. And it's like, man, I should have been paying attention, because the 12,501st trophy was literally the hard boss that I couldn't get past, the eyeball boss in Rogue Legacy. So if I just would have not played Ghostwire, I could have actually popped that as the 2,500th, which would have been awesome. But it's just like, things just don't work out that way exactly. But I mean, you're definitely right with the numbers, because on PlayStation, you know, it has, on especially on PSN profiles, it actually has like specific a milestone category where you can look at, you know, my 225th platinum was from Cyberpunk, called Never Fade Away, and my 200th platinum was The Completionist. It's the Scott Pilgrim versus the World game. It's just like, it's really nice that it tracks these specific things. But something else that I'm coming up on my milestones is I am trophy level 548, and that's 2 levels away from 550.
Nice. I was just going to say, with true achievements, from what I can tell, maybe I'm being stupid, like maybe there's a way to do it, but from what I can tell, it tells you like when you reached each milestone, which is quite cool and plots a graph for you, but it doesn't tell you what game it's in, which is kind of annoying because then you have to take the date and just like search the date and then find out. But yeah, I think I'm at like I'm almost at 20,000 achievements. I'm at 19,750, 850 games played, and 430 completed games. So
Amazing. See, and like those kind of milestones, just I never even thought that I'd be there. I remember when I was I was approaching 50, and I was like, wow, can you believe I almost have 50? And now look at me, I'm at fucking 233 platinums. And I've actually, we've talked about it before, but I'm planning my 250th. Like that milestone I really do want to be Stardew Valley. That game is very special to me, and I would love for it to be my 250th. It's just like, damn,
yeah,
dude.
I hadn't thought about it until just now, but I feel like my 20,000th achievement should be something special, maybe. So yeah, it's always something that for me as well. Like you mentioned with Rogue Legacy and the amount of trophies you've got, you sort of forget to check up on it and to check up on like each thing. So it's good every so often to have like a reminder or to just go back and have a look to see if you're coming up on like any big number.
Absolutely. And that's something that, people criticize and harp on trophies and achievements a lot, but it's also like, but it's really cool. Like that there's tracking out there of stuff that you've done in your past and like that you've conquered and that you've achieved, and it's there. Like you can track it. It's very, I find it so awesome. It's like looking back on my time gaming from the past couple of generations. It's like my memory's not good enough to remember all of the stuff that I played and when I played it and all of this stuff. And it's like, I mean, just take example for like PS1 and PS2 from me. It's like I just went through on that website Backlogged. I went through some of my old games, and it's like I don't remember when I played this between that time. Like, I don't remember what my first PS2 game was. I don't remember what my last PS2 game was. It wasn't tracked. And it's like it's really, really cool that trophies and achievements do track this stuff so that we can look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember playing that right after this. Like it's a memory trigger, and it's really, really cool. But on the website, it has a level history tracker, and I was looking at this earlier for milestones, and a lot of them are they just happen to be trophies that are randomly throughout your level up, and it usually on the website it only tracks between 10 levels. So 540, 530, 520, 510, multiples of 10. And I was looking through and I was like, I wonder if any of my games or my levels were platinums. And it turned out a lot of them were. When I hit level 50, it was the Uncharted 2 platinum, which is extremely early. That's my first platinum. So I hit trophy level 50 with my first platinum. And then another platinum was level 100. It was Aragorn's Quest. I don't know if you played this game, but it's bad, dude. It's not good. But level 110 was another platinum, and it was from Infamous. I believe it's the first one. But level 150 was Borderlands, and then most of my other levels, up all the way up until 330, are just random trophies, just like Unit 13 bronze trophy, like Shadow of Mordor was a bronze trophy, and it was level 310. It's just like random, but I know that. So as Gamerscore works, you have a number of points, and PlayStation has points behind the trophies. Trophies are just kind of like an icon over the points. And now I don't exactly know what they are. I think it's like bronze is 100, or maybe even less than that. And then silver is like 200, gold's 500, platinum's 1,000. So when you get a platinum trophy, it does give you a big boost of points, and it should jump you over the line of leveling most of the time. Because like on the website, it even says level 549 in 1,170 points. So I'm 35% of the way there. So if I get another platinum, I'm sure that I'll jump up another level. And then after that, most likely will be another level. But the whole point is like with these increments, it's kind of hard to plan out. I don't exactly know the exact score. I don't know if I looked harder on the website, I probably could find that. But it's interesting that a lot of these trophies and specific level milestones on, because PlayStation recently changed it. I don't know if you knew that,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah, they used.
I mean, I feel like there's some stuff that you just shouldn't, like, you can't really use as like they are milestones, but you can't like plan around them, or you can't
Yeah,
line them up. Like, I guess an example for achievements is true achievement score, which is basically it's a value that is it's like uses the gamer score value of an achievement, but then also like multiplies it by a ratio, and that ratio is found from like the percentage of people who have the game but don't have the achievement, basically. So if an achievement's more difficult, the true achievement point value is a lot higher. So you could have like a 10 gamer score achievement, but if the 10 gamer score achievement is just like start the game, then its true achievement score is like 10. But if the 10 gamer score achievement is like the super hard Max Payne 3 achievement we talked about last time, its true achievement score is like 100 or something. But that value will change based on how many people get it. So that number is constantly changing all the time, if that makes sense, because it's updated based on as people get the achievement, like as more people get the achievement and the achievement becomes less rare, or as more people play the game and don't get the achievement, so the achievement would become more rare. So I'm approaching, I think, 1,000,000 TA points. Yeah, I'm on 989,000 for that, and around almost 600,000 gamer score. So, but there's no way I can line up that because that value will change all the time. So it'll be a good milestone and celebration when I get above 1,000,000. That'll be cool. But there's no way I can line it up to get like exactly 1,000,000, if that makes sense. Kind of like what you're saying about the sort of the point value behind the trophies as well.
yeah, it's really cool. I really do love milestones, and I would love if the audience does listen to this, like put some of your milestones in the comments, because this milestones are really really cool to track, and especially for trophy hunters, it is something that you can watch. There's definitely stuff like you were just saying that you cannot track and you can't do. Like I can't plan out my trophy level in points, but whenever I hit 250, there definitely will be a mark on the specifically on the website that will say, hey, this is the trophy that got you over the point of 250. And so I'll be able to show that off, and that's really freaking cool. But yeah,
Yeah, for
let's
sure.
see
Do
if
you want to do achievement of the week?
yeah, absolutely.
I'll go first. So
Yeah, do it.
my achievement is called Hot Shot. It's in Outer Wilds, and it's to manually fly to the sun station. Again, I don't really want to talk about it like too much because of potential spoilers. But a lot of the achievements in Outer Wilds are really cool because they're for optional stuff. They're not for like stuff that you like have to do or have to do in that one way. So they're like optional challenges a lot of the time, or like little secrets, and they're quite fun to go towards. But I really like this one to land on the sun station. So the sun station, it's kind of like a satellite or tower that's orbiting the sun really, really close to it, and it's moving very quickly. And so objects with mass in Outer Wilds have a gravitational pull towards them. So obviously the sun is massive and the sun station is tiny. So when you're trying to like land at the sun station, you can very easily get pulled into the sun and die. So, and because it's moving quickly, it's really tough to get the angle right for you to like line up with it properly. So the angle and the speed are really tough to get correctly. And then what makes it even harder is there's no place to land in the sun station. So you have to like land either on top of it or don't land at all, just sort of fly by it. And then you have to get out of your ship and then quickly like jetpack over into it before you either like, well, for me, so it took a lot of attempts to get like the approach and the speed and the angle right. But then once I got that pretty consistent, I'd end up like either trying to like eject from my ship or just get out of the ship. And so many times I'd get either like pulled into the sun or just like bounce off of something and then just go like back into like outer space, basically. So yeah, it's a really tough achievement to actually like fly and land in there, but it's so much fun as well. Like it's such like a cool challenge that you can do it and you don't necessarily have to do it, but and then when you get there, it's like there's loads of stuff to discover as well. So there's like that extra layer to it as well. The achievement's kind of like, oh hey, maybe you should try this thing, and then you try it and you realize it's like, oh, it's like so hard to do, and then you spend like 2 hours trying to do it, and then afterwards you get like a big gamer score achievement, and you get a lot of cool stuff to discover as well. So yeah, great achievement, and I like that it sort of has you getting like a mastery of flying the ship and also navigating yourself outside of the ship because you have to do both to get there. So yeah, great achievement.
I love that you so casually said you just get sucked into the sun. It's like, what? Dude, that's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's
But
times where like because you try because the sun station is orbiting the sun super close to it.
right.
So like you basically have to try to you also try and do an orbit of the sun, and you want your orbit to like match the orbit of the station, if that makes sense. Like the
Yeah, it makes
station's
sense.
constantly moving around it really quickly. So you have to like match your velocity to it and get the exact angle right to like be on an orbit that's like just above it, and then you can sort of lower yourself on top of it while going like super quickly. Like it's such a cool thing and something I've not really experienced in games. I'm sure there's a lot of space sims that also do it, but yeah, I love that because it's like, I mean, it makes you think about like space and orbital mechanics in an interesting way as well. Because obviously, like, you know, we don't notice it, but like, you know, the Earth is like on its orbit and also spinning, and it's like it's so weird how that like messes with gravity and like your perception of the world and stuff. It's kind of weird and existential, but yeah, it's really really fun.
That's so cool. God, that game is so cool. It just sounds so exciting to match orbit, and it sounds complicated, but I'm curious how it is in gameplay. Like,
Yeah, it's good. I mean, yeah, you have a you have like on your ship, you have a lot of like really useful UI elements and HUD stuff, but in terms of controlling the ship, you have like a thruster that's like up and down, and then you have forward, backwards, and left and right as well. So yeah, you sort of tend to like use like the up and down to get like the trajectory of your orbit, and forward and back to like increase your speed usually. And obviously those two are sort of linked together as well, because if you go like fast and up, you like move away from the sun, but if you go like backwards and down, you're going to be closer to the sun as well, because it's easier to stay like you want to like maintain a certain speed for the height that you're at to get it consistent. It's more like when you play it, it feels way more intuitive than like trying to explain it or visualize it, I
right.
think, because you can feel the feedback, like, you know, like, oh, I'm doing this and it's like pulling me too far in or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, a
Yeah,
bit.
visually you're looking at it and you're like, "Oh no, I'm going too fast. Oh no, I need to go down. I need to slow down. I need
Yeah,
to do this."
it's
Yeah.
great. The way it controls is really really good. It's like it's got like a lot of simplicity. There's not like 100 buttons you have to press in like the cockpit. You just basically control. The only other thing you control is you have to control. I think if you hold like left bumper and then move the right stick, you have to control like the roll of your spaceship as well, because obviously you can spin, or you know, your spaceship can spin around as well on its like own axis. So you have to control that as well, but you mostly do that first. Like that, you want to do that from like far away, so you line up your angle with the angle of the sun station that's going around. So it's like, yeah, you're like, yeah, it's like some, I don't know, coordinate stuff, but it feels really intuitive in the game, and it doesn't feel too complicated to do.
That's so cool. But I wanted to ask you one question before I do my trophy and achievement of the week. And it goes back to Hollow Knight and 2D side scrollers. But are you doing a cardinal sin of using the analog stick? I do not use the analog stick at all.
For
Like
Hollow
whenever I
Knight,
play, huh?
for Hollow Knight,
Yeah, for Hollow Knight or Rogue Legacy or any kind of 2D games.
uh, sometimes it depends. I feel comfortable with both normally. I think I prefer the. I mean, it depends. There's the only difficult maneuver to do in Hollow Knight, I feel, is down pogoing sometimes, because so if you press forwards and you attack in front of you, And if
Hmm.
you hold down an attack, you down pogo. And
Hmm.
normally, when you're down pogoing over stuff, you also want to move forward at the same time because otherwise you just stay still. Obviously, like if you just down pogo over and over. So what you have to do is you have to move to the right. Like you have to pogo, you have to hold down an attack, and then you have to move forwards a bit, and then you have to switch from moving forwards to aiming down to attack again. Like very quickly, and then you move forwards again afterwards. I find that easier to do on the thumbstick than on the D-pad generally, but I'm okay with both, really. But that's the only like fine control where I noticed a difference in terms of how to control the game. Because a lot of the time, if you basically if you hold forward for if you need to down pogo several times in a row, if you hold forwards for too long, when you go to try and do another pogo off like the spikes, you'll just swing in front of you instead and not pogo, and then you
Ooh.
just crash into the spikes and take damage. So
Do you have? I wonder if it has settings, because this is something that I did turn on in Rogue Legacy. It does have a setting where it's like it's auto. I don't. It's like auto down. So whenever you want to attack down, I don't press down square. I press down, and it automatically
no,
swings.
it
Or
doesn't have that.
if you're
You have to get
standing.
the timing right.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
it's also auto down. Also enables, so like when you're standing on an edge that or a platform that you can drop through. I don't have to press down and
yeah,
X
you
to
just
jump
press down
down.
and it does it.
Yeah, and it falls through. And so while I was playing the game, I was doing that a lot. And that there was one time where I did try to use the analog stick. I felt so dirty. I don't know. I can't do it on 2D games, but I was getting in the routine, and like I was moving so much back and forth with the D-pad that my thumb was hitting the down arrow, and because I have the auto on, the character was attacking down when I needed to attack forward, and I was like, oh shit, like I have to jump back now.
Yeah,
Just to
for me it's like I'm okay with both, but I prefer an analog stick when I have to
be precise.
very rapidly change from one direction to another, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
I like the
my
D-pad more for like holding in one direction more. If that, yeah, that's how I
yeah,
prefer to play anyway.
I just have always played them with the D-pad, and it feels so
Yeah,
much better with the D-pad.
yeah. You
And
should just
I'm
load up
actually
Hollow Knight and try and down pogo with the D-pad and see what you
how it
think.
works.
I'm sure it's fine, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's quite. You need some finesse with it, especially towards there's some like optional platforming challenges where you need to really master it. Like you need to be able to do it consistently over and over again. And I found I could do it more consistently like the first time I tried with the analog stick, so then I just kept with the analog stick at that point.
that's so awesome. It's good to hear. All right, my trophy and achievement of the week is I have two, both from Uncharted 4. This Uncharted 4 is an action adventure game, and I thought it was really cool where the game had you do not exactly action oriented mechanics. So there's this trophy called Ghost in the Cemetery, and it's you go through the Scotland cemetery combat encounter without killing anyone or being seen. And in a game where you can just like take guns away from people, literally, like you run out of ammo, you go up and you melee them, and then it automatically gives you the gun that they were holding. Like that happened to me so many times. It's so awesome. Those animations are so cool every single time. But like there was one specifically where I was like holding onto a ledge, and then you can like drop down from above, but I didn't have a gun. So it like the force of hitting the person onto the ground, their gun kind of like stayed stationary, and then Nathan stands up and like grabs it out of the air. It's like, holy shit. It's amazing. But Ghost in the Cemetery is such a cool trophy where you have to try to like not use combat and try to get through. And then
Nice.
I like the name of this other achievement slash trophy is like it's called I accidentally all the guns, and it's just for using all the guns. And I was like, that's good. That's really good. So yeah, those are my two trophies this week.
Nice.
But you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm interested in. So I've got two achievements left in Outer Wilds, and one of them's a big one. One of them should be pretty quick, maybe. And then I have to do the DLC, and I don't know much about the DLC, so I don't know how difficult the achievements are or how the DLC is generally. So I'm excited for that because it will be kind of like semi blind somewhat in terms of an Outer Wilds experience, which hasn't been a thing for me for quite a while now. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing how that goes. I mean, obviously, the nightmare situation is the achievements might be really, really hard, and then I can't line it up with 600k as well. But I'm sure it will be fine. But yeah, I'm just excited to keep playing more of it.
I'm excited to hear more, and I'm also excited to get done with Rogue Legacy. I want to feel
Yeah, you got
that
this. You're
relief.
so close now.
I am close, but I'm not. It's so weird. It's not the final boss isn't so much it's not so much that I can learn the moves and like avoid the attacks. It's just that he's just so overpowered, and I literally there's one move where the boss goes to the side of the screen and then spawns a bunch of like projectiles, and it's just luck if you can dodge them. Because it literally starts on the side of the screen where they're all like parallel, and then randomly they just start coming out of the thing, and so you can jump, but it doesn't guarantee that they're not going to randomly spawn so that there's like 4 that are coming at a velocity that you can't literally dodge through. You like just can't do anything. So I need more health and I need more power to do more damage before he starts spawning those attacks. There's other attacks that I'm very good at dodging and I never get hit by them, but it's that one attack. But so I'm pretty much at this point just gonna grind the game and get as much gold as I can.
Yeah, I
And
know
then
there's a way. I heard there's a way you can like farm gold basically in one
Yeah.
run. That seems boring, so I don't want to do it. But
Oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to farm gold. I'm going to do exactly like, I've been doing, where I run the easy level. Actually, I don't do that. I go through like the game is kind of sectioned off. It's like the far east side is like the second part that you're supposed to do in order, and then you're supposed to go to the north part and then do that one, and then go to the south part, which
Yeah.
is like the hardest. And I usually just run through the easy shit, find that side of the map, and then I go through it, and if I get hit or whatever, I can go back to the easy part and just one hit enemies and just get my health back.
Yeah, and like
Go to the
use
next
them as
part.
like vampirism. Yeah, that's
Yep.
smart to use them for.
And then I'm getting gold by killing all those enemies, moving on to the next part, and then killing all those enemies, getting gold, and then going to the bottom part and killing all those enemies. And then usually by the end of that run, I'll have like 10 to 20,000 gold, and I can attempt the final boss, but I'm usually not at full health. And then when I die, I restart and I go in and do another one. So I'm kind of grinding it out that way. I'm not just going.
Yeah, as long as you have some leeway on the amount of attempts. Yeah, I feel like that's a good strat.
Yeah, because I'm at 10 deaths, so I could literally have 4 runs to earn. I could get up to 80,000 gold, maybe even more. Because I'll tell you what, I did save scum this, but I'm not ashamed. I had 15,000 gold, and there's this character in the game who's like, I'll take a 30-year gold for this treasure chest, but if you get it, then you get like, I don't know what it is, a quarter of the gold that you have back. So, or maybe even the other way, you get a third of what you have out of the chest. And there's 3 chests, and you can just open one randomly, and it's like, oh, you didn't get anything, and I took a 30-year gold. Or it's like you got an extra third of your gold because you opened the right chest. And I just like reloaded my save, and then it was like 15,000 to 21,000. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I need that gold. Like so bad, because each upgrade is like 1,000 plus points when you start getting it higher.
Yeah.
And so just doing that farm got me like 6 upgrades. It was amazing. But yeah,
nice.
That's my final word. Can't wait to talk about it next time. I'll let you know.
Yeah, hopefully you got it at that point.
I do. I hope so too. But thanks for listening, everybody. Peace out. Happy hunting.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Complete Edition. If you like the content, consider supporting us on patreon.com/completion club. If you have any questions or would like to reach us, email completionclub@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Complete Edition.